Hi, good morning. Welcome to the training webinar for this week. I'm Dale Franks. Last week, we started our series on advanced design concepts. We're going to continue that today. We're largely going to talk about the process timeline, although there are some other things that we're going to have to talk about still on the form and some other objects as well. So without further ado, let's get to it. So let me share my screen. That is not the right screen size here. I'm not sure whether 1920 by 1080 viewport. There we go. Let's fill up our share window with Process Director screen. Okay, a couple of things I did offline so that you wouldn't have to sit and watch me do a bunch of tedious stuff that I'm sure you all know how to do, or just continuations of what I did last week. The first thing I did was I went into the folder. This is the folder for our project, and previously it just had the description that was built into the template. I went ahead and changed that. It's always a good idea to have the description of what your application is so that you can see it. So all you really need to do is just go into the folder properties, go to the description, change the description. And once you do that, it shows up as the second line in the content list. It's just convenient for telling people what this application is when somebody comes in later and looks at it. So I went ahead and did that. On the form itself, I also made a couple of additions to the form. I had these sections down here at the bottom of the form for the different types of requests that we might have. Now, last week we came up with 4 different request types: time off, an HR request, complaints or suggestions, and I created the sections, but what I didn't do was do any of the fields that were in there. And look, the fields in here are not all that important, except for us to explain a couple of important features that we might want to have on a form. But I went ahead and just added all of these form fields in here. We are going to address them. There's a couple of things that we need to do in terms of our PTO dates, and I just wanted to do a little stuff here, and I'm going to do that pretty quickly, and then we'll get to the process timeline. And one of the other things I need to do here is, that's Prover actions. There we go. One of the other things that I need to do here is change this and make it editable. I don't think I did that last week. I may have forgotten. No, I did do it last week. I made it visible and I made it enabled so that we could edit it. So I did cover that last week. So let's get these last couple of form things out of the way, and then we'll move on to our process timeline. Now, for our time off, there are a couple of things that I want to do here. And these are basically, I'm just showing you a couple of different features that you might want to incorporate whenever you are doing date stuff, because you often have to do date calculations and what have you. So we're just going to do some date calculations here. We're going to calculate the number of days and the number of hours from the PTO start and the PTO end if I choose a PTO date. And there's actually a couple of ways that I might want to implement this. Once I start dropping in a date diff here, and I start doing a calculation here to calculate the number of hours as well as the number of days, I want to make sure that this is going to work properly. Users do have a tendency sometimes to do things in the wrong order or do things as it is more convenient for them. And sometimes we need to force them down a particular path that enables them to fill things out in the way that we want them to fill it out. I say enables as if we're doing them a favor. We're actually forcing a particular path onto the user. One of the ways that we do that, and the way that we're going to do that here in this form, or the way that we have it configured to do in this form, is by not showing them these 4 sections of the form for the 4 different request types, unless they choose that specific request type in the request type dropdown up here at the top of the form. So there's all these options here that we really don't want users to fill out if it's not related to the type of request that they are trying to submit. So to make life easier for them and for us, because if there are extra fields, there's always a possibility that users will get confused and that users will put the wrong thing in the wrong place, or they'll fill out stuff they don't need to fill out. So in that sense, we are helping them by simply hiding all of the fields that we don't want them to fill out based on the request type of the form. So last week, when we did all of these sections before I added the fields, we did go in and determine when these fields were going to be visible based on the request type. So that's great. But even here, we want to ensure that they don't put in an end date before they put in a start date. So we want to ensure that they fill things out in order. Now, this isn't strictly speaking necessary. I don't think I would do it, and I certainly did it in the sample application for this form, the completed one. And so I am going to go ahead and do it here. So I am going to set an enabling option. So I'm going to set it, field is disabled when. And I could do it either way. I'm kind of a fan of doing it when I want the field enabled, but here I think my default is I want the field enabled unless there is no start date. So I only want this available to the user when there is no PTO start date selected. And so I'm going to use field is disabled when, and I'm going to click otherwise enabled because I do want it otherwise enabled unless, and this is where we're going to go and check our form field. We're going to take our PTO start date. Oh, it's already got form field selected. So I can just go to PTO start. And we will say it is other than empty. So there has to be a date so that the PTO end date appears for the user. So we're going to use that as our condition. So we're looking for something other than just an empty date. And that should enable us to make this appear automatically whenever they select a start date. Now, in order for that to happen, there's a couple of things that we have to do on the form. First thing, I do have to go to the PTO start field. I have to be sure that that's an event field so that an event fires whenever I select a PTO start date. And when that event fires, then my conditional evaluation will appear and my PTO end date should be enabled. And then I'm going to need to set a system variable here. Now, rather than watch me type it, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go to my application, which I should have opened, but I did not. But that's fine. We're going to go to my application and my completed sample application. There we go. My form has saved. So happy with that. So let's go to my advanced form, and I'm just going to copy it real quick so that we can put a system variable in here. So I'll show you what I'm doing for this. I have a field called time off days. Well, actually, I don't have a field. I'm going to put that field on the form. So now that I've copied what I want, let's go back to my form and let's add this field. So I need to have the number of days that are going to be taken up by the number of leave. Actually, I want the number of days and I want the number of hours. Now, this is not a great PTO thing because I'm not including times. And so I'm not going to calculate, the actual number of minutes. I'm just going to assume that we're going to pick whole days. We're not going to pick, a 2-hour PTO in the afternoon because I have a doctor's appointment. We can do that, and we can do that using the same stuff that I'm about to show you. I'm just doing it just for ease, simplicity's sake, just to demonstrate the principle. So I am going to put a field in here. It's going to be a text field, and I am going to call it time off days. Actually, that's what I called it last time. Let's call it PTO days. So I have a field called PTO days, and this field is going to be disabled because we're never going to have users fill this out. We're going to fill this out automatically. So I'm just going to set this field to permanently disabled. That way it will never be enabled, even though the rest of the form is enabled. Now I need to set the value of this field based on my PTO start or the difference between my PTO start and my PTO end date. And I want this to happen only after I select an end date. And I am not going to allow people to select an end date unless a start date exists. So when they fill this out, they're going to have to select a start date. Then they'll be allowed to select an end date. And then when they select an end date, I want to do a calculation between the start and the end date to determine the number of days that they are taking for their PTO. Now, in order to make that calculation happen, I have to go back to PTO end, and I have to make that an event field as well, because now on this event for the PTO end, I am going to want to do a set form data to set the number of days via a date diff calculation. So I'm going to go ahead and save my form real quick because I want to save all the configuration changes I've made so far. Actually, I wanted to save and close the form template here, and I clicked the wrong button, so I didn't do that. So we're going to click the button, the save and close button. We're going to have to go back to the form definition, and we're going to have to go to the set form data tab and use the PTO end event to create a set form data action. And I had hoped that that explanation would be long enough to save the form. It almost was. So we'll go to set form data. And now that I have that event on my PTO end, I'm going to set that. I'm going to add the action. I want to set my PTO days field, and I want to set it to a value, which in this case is going to be a string, value, string, and I'm going to pop in this date diff here. That may be hard for you to read, so let me open up Visual Studio Code so that we can see it larger than life and see what the text of this date diff field is. So let's get rid of that little HTML page. We'll just go to new text file here. Sorry about that. And we'll paste in our date diff, and we'll make it a little bigger so that we can all see what is in this date field. Now I copied and pasted it, so some things are going to have to change here. Obviously my field names are going to have to change. So I want to do what is called a date diff. I want to calculate the difference between two dates. A date diff basically takes two main arguments. There are some other ones here that we'll get to in a second, but it takes two main arguments. The start date, the date I want to start my calculation with, and the date I want to end it with. So I actually have a field called PTO start and a field called PTO end. And those are my start and end dates, obviously. So these are the two dates. Date 1 and date 2 are the two required parameters that I need to do a date diff. Now, in my case, I want to add a couple of extra parameters. I don't want to include weekends or holidays. Now, in Process Director, it knows what Saturday and Sunday are, so it knows what weekends are. It doesn't know what holidays are unless you tell it. Now, there is a series of custom variables that you can put inside your custom variables file, which we have to do every year. I think I've even done it on training here for this year, although I may not have. But in any event, there is a set of dates. There is a calendar of dates that you can put in whatever your organization considers a holiday. And any date that falls on, or any day that falls on those dates will be considered not a business day. So because I'm doing PTO time, I really don't want to do calendar days because I don't want to include weekends. I don't want to include holidays. So I'm going to throw in this type parameter here. And I'm going to set the type to business days. And when I do that, we're just going to skip weekends and holidays based on what our holiday schedule is in Process Director in the calendar. And it will only calculate actual business days for the days that I'm going to need off. Now, by default, when you do a date diff, the way the date diff calculation works by default is it will include date 1, but it will not include date 2. Date 2 is my cutoff date. And because we're using dates, we assume that the time is always going to be 12 a.m. So if I was to put it in a start date of April 11th and an end date of April 12th, by default, because it's using 12 a.m. on April 12th as the end date, it will not count April 12th because midnight is the very, very start of the day. So what this would come up with, if I was to do a date diff between today and tomorrow, by default, would actually return a day, one day, midnight April 11th to midnight April 12th. Of course, that's not generally how we do things whenever we are talking about putting in leave. We put in our first day of leave, and then we put in our last day of leave, and we expect to count all of those days of leave. And since that is so, we do need to use the include end date equals true parameter on our date diff because we want to be sure that we include date 2. So if I say I'm taking vacation on the 11th and 12th, that's 2 days, not 1 day, and I need it to be counted as 2 days. So I need to count date 2 as part of my date diff calculation. And so therefore I need to I need to include the end date for that date diff. And so that's what I've done here on this particular set form data action. So now whenever I pick a start date and an end date, it should do my calculation. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And I'm going to go grab another form field so that you don't have to watch me actually do it. You know, I messed up something on this form. And so I don't think I can actually get to the design view. No, I cannot get to the design view, but that's okay. Fine. I was hoping to copy and paste it, but I forgot that I messed up a condition on that form, and I can access everything but the actual form template in that form. So I guess we're just going to have to do this live. So now that I know the number of days, I need to know the number of hours. Now this I can do pretty simply. I can just run a calculation. So all I really need to do is just add a calculation field here. So I forget where the calculation field is because I don't think it's an action. Other controls, calc control. There it is. There's my calculation control. And I'm going to call this calculation control PTO hours. So I have PTO days. Now I need PTO hours. And I'm also going to set this as always disabled while I'm doing this. Oh, wait, never mind. I don't have to do that. It's not a field I fill out. You can't disable calculation fields. So great. I'm just going to need a formula. We're going to do a real simple formula for this. I'm actually just going to take the PTO days. I'm just going to multiply them by 8. As I said, we're assuming we're doing whole days here. So if I want to get the hours, a work day is 8 hours in general. So I'll just calculate by 8. So I'm just going to set my well, I clicked away from here, didn't I? I'm going to set my formula as the system variable for PTO days, which I believe is what I named that field. And I'm just going to multiply that by 8. And so that should just, however many days it is, it should multiply by the number of hours. Well, all of this sounds great in theory. There is one more thing I need to do before we move on. And that is I need to use a set focus because I'm now using form fields to prompt events. And when you use a form field to prompt event, when the form reloads, it'll take you back up to the top of the form. I believe we talked about this not last week, but the week before last about how that works. And because I have a couple of fields like that, I'm going to need to throw in a custom task event onto the form. I'm going to need to do a set focus event. Now, I'm only going to do one of them. I do have 3 event fields on my form. I've got my drop down for the request type. So technically, I should have a set focus for that to go from the request type to the narrative field on the form. Similarly, on this form, I'm going to need at least one more, which is the PTO day or PTO start field, so that when I fill out the PTO start field, when I hit tab, it should just take me straight to the PTO end field. Because whenever a form event fires, my form reloads and my tab order restarts back up at the top of the form. I don't want that to happen because I don't want my user to have to re-tab through everything that's at the top of the form to get back to where they were. I want them to be able to tab right to the field that they need to tab to whenever they fill out an event field. Now, it's not as important, I don't think, for the date field because you're going to have to use your mouse to choose the date. Although technically, you don't have to. I mean, technically, you can fill out a date picker via the keyboard. I never do, but in any event, for whatever reason, we are going to add that set focus because anytime that you have an event field, we do need to add that set focus. So in this case, we're just going to use the PTO start and as our event, and then we're going to go into the configuration. And the configuration for this is super, super easy. I just have to pick the field that I want to receive the focus after the event fires, which in our case is going to be the PTO end. So we'll hit OK. That saves our custom task. And obviously, in the real world, we'd want one of these on our request type dropdown. And even though it will be the last field on the form, nope, you know what? We don't have to do it on the PTO end field. And the reason we don't have to do it on the PTO end field, but we do need it on PTO start. And technically, well, we're here. Why not just do it? We'll go to form and we're set focus. There it is, set focus. And we'll add it to our request type drop down to. And from our request type, we're going to go to, oh, I don't remember what I called that form field. Oh, I didn't rename that date picker either. I don't know what that date picker is, but there is one here and it's going to have to be renamed. I didn't do that right, but I don't remember what. I think maybe it's request info. I think that's the form field. I just don't remember what I named it. That's always a problem whenever you're trying to configure forms. Did I name that request info? Yes, I did. It looks like. Yes, it is request info. So now when I change my request type, the field will focus will be request information. When I change my PTO start, the field will be PTO end. Now, I didn't add it to PTO end. And I'll tell you why, because I don't think it's necessary. Let's run and test our form to be sure that, any and all of this stuff works the way that we expect it to work. So we'll go into test mode and we're going to choose time off as our request type. which hopefully would show us all of our PTO dates. And then we'll be able to pick our PTO dates. We'll have to pick the start first, then pick the end, and then it should do our calculation for us. So we're going to select time off. That shows me my PTO start. PTO end is disabled. As you can see, this is one of the reasons why we're doing this in test mode, by the way, so that I can actually hover over controls and see what they are and see what their state is. And as we can see right now, PTO end is disabled according to the pop-up. And it's always disabled when PTO start equals nothing. So I'm going to go to PTO start and I'm just going to pick, let's pick the 12th. Let's just do it over a weekend. And now PTO end is disabled. All right, it doesn't even appear. Okay, we'll have to go back and see why my PTO end disappeared on me. Not sure what happened there. Let's go back to PTO end. Let's look at our field properties. Field is disabled when PTO start is something else. Otherwise, it's enabled. What I want to know is why it disappeared. It was disabled, and it was disabled properly. But then it just disappeared completely. I think I know what might have happened there. I misread what is going on because I misread what I did. It should be field is enabled when there may be a condition. There may be a problem with my condition here. And then I want it otherwise disabled. So was it disabled? Hold on. Was it disabled at the start? Because I just moused over it and saw the disabling condition, but it didn't actually check to see whether it was disabled. And I do have show disabled fields as text. So I think I may have to switch this over to field is disabled when rather than field is enabled when. Conditions are tricky. Oh yeah, so that's enabled. Okay, so we're going to have to go back here and we're going to have to swap that out. I want field. No, field is enabled when PTO start is something of it, otherwise disabled. So field is enabled when, so let's show that. So what I would expect for it to be is disabled now, which means it won't actually even display on the form because it won't have any value anyway. So when it's disabled, it won't show up because I do have set disabled fields as text. So let's do this again. Time off. There we go. Now it's disabled. Now I can pick the 12th. Now it's enabled. Now I can pick the 14th. So like I said, conditions are tricky. I should have been field is enabled, not field is disabled when. And now that I've set that date, it did not, in fact, prompt my date diff. So I'm still showing my date diff as 0, which I do not want to do. So let's go back and see what happened there. So I technically didn't have to save there since I just updated it with actually, there's something else I have to do here. By default, calculation fields expect to show up in dollars. We got to fix that. So we don't want that format to be dollars. But we'll have to do that in a second after we fix this. I was really hoping to get the form stuff done a lot faster today. So we could jump into the meat of the process timeline. Okay, there we go. Finally, we saved. So let me go to my set form data. So PTO days is my field. PTO end is my event. And it should show me this date diff. Oh, it still says, oh, I changed it here. I didn't change it in the form. it's super important that you have the right field names in the form. And I don't have a field called start date or end date. I have fields called PTO start and PTO end. So there we go. That should be a big help right there. Let's update and test real quick. Well, before I update and test, let me go to my form controls tab and see if I can do this here on PTO hours. And I want to change the data type just to plain old number from currency on my PTO hours. This is the calculation field. Fortunately, it is a field property, so I can change it on the form controls tab without having to reopen the form. So I'll make that change there. We will now update and run. Testing as you go is pretty important. So we'll go with 12 there, and we'll go with 15th there. There we go. That gives me 2 days on my date diff and 16 hours on my number of hours on my calculation field. So I'm taking 2 days or 16 hours. And of course, if I make a change here, it's obviously now going to be 5 days with 40 hours of PTO. So my calculation control and my system variable, now that I have the correct field names included in it, work. And so we're happy little campers. One other thing, oops, don't want to do that. Whatever it wants to do, I want to update first. One other thing I wanted to show you, and that is that I dropped in a radio button list control. Now, I like radio button lists. We do have a control called the radio button. And the radio button works, and it works just fine. I just don't like the way it is configured. It is an older control, so it is configured the way we used to have to configure radio buttons. I'm going to show you how to do it, but it is a little confusing. I always recommend using the radio button list control because usually when you do radio buttons, you're doing a list anyway. And I didn't mean to add that radio button. That is absolutely something I did not mean to do. You know what? We're going to back out of this completely because I replaced my radio button list with a radio button. So the radio button list is just a normal input control. It's right here, the radio button list. It is a normal list control. Now, I don't have any items in this list. I don't have any requested actions. Didn't make any up because what I would normally do in this case is I would create a drop-down object that has my list. Now, maybe in this particular case, I don't need to create a drop-down object because I'm never going to use it anywhere else. This may just be a unique one-off item. And if so, then it's fine. I can create the items right here. So I don't know, my requested HR options. I don't remember what the old options were. So I'm just going to change name, change address. We're going to assume that these are address, benefits change. I'm just throwing stuff in here, but I can go ahead and make my list right here. Assuming that this is just going to be a unique list that's only going to show up on this form, I think in this case, it's fine to use the items property. However, you should know that because this is a list control, I can use a drop-down object to provide the options that I want to show up in my list control. I can also have, I don't have it here, but I could also have separate, what do you call them? Wow, I completely lost my train of thought because I was thinking ahead of how I'm going to use this. I lost my train of thought. You can use the drop-down list. You can fill it via a business value. You can have a separate value and display text, just like you do with any other list control, just like you do with a drop-down. In fact, it's exactly the same as a drop-down in every respect, except it visibly presents you with a list of radio buttons, and it is a mutually exclusive list of buttons. So it is a much easier list control than the radio button control. Also, radio button controls are a little bit of a pain to configure. And just as a little change, I'm going to show you why that is. So I'm going to save this form. And once it's saved, we're going to make a new form real quick, a new little disposable form that I just want to drop a radio button on, because I do know that people use radio buttons, and there are times when you do want to use them in certain circumstances. So I'm just going to, generally you don't. Generally, I find that the radio button list takes care of all of my radio button problems, but there are a couple of edge use cases, which I'm sorry, I just can't remember off the top of my head what they were, but I have seen a couple of edge use cases where the radio button itself is useful. Because what the radio button allows you to do is make weird little mixed lists because of how you configure it. So I'm going to create a new form definition here. And by the way, I'm not sure why I feel this pressure to move on to the process timeline now. It's not like we're limited in time. I can drag this thing out as long as the series out as long as I need. There are no deadlines imposed on me, so I don't know why I'm worrying about that. So we'll just call this RB form for radio button. And I'll just drop some radio buttons on here. Okay, so here's a radio button, and let me just add a second radio button. Okay, now by default, Process Director wants to give every control, when you put it on a form, a unique name. And for every other control, that's a good practice. For the radio button, it's not, because the name is not really the name of the radio button. It's actually the name of a group of radio buttons. So this is not the control's name. This is the group name. The ID is the actual name of the radio button control. So if I'm going to use radio buttons rather than a radio button list is drop dead easy. It's a list control. So you know everything that you can drop into it. But radio buttons are different, because I need to make radio buttons mutually exclusive. I need to all drop them into the same group. So when I drop them onto the form from the online form designer, it's going to say radio 1 and radio 2 for each of the two buttons, and that's wrong. We do it that way because we have to provide a default name. And by the way, if I go ahead and save the form, it's not going to mess anything up. They're just going to be in two different groups. But to make them, but what this means is, if I run the form right now, which I guess I will, these are actually going to be considered two different radio button groupings, which means, come on, there are two radio buttons on the form. It can't take this long to prompt a form instance. There we go. It invoked it. I can do that. And that ain't how radio buttons are supposed to work. I'm not supposed to be able to check both of them. The reason that I can, however, is because this is technically two completely different radio button groupings. This is radio 1, but it only contains one radio button, and that's radio 2. Well, if we wanted to do this and just have boxes that we could check, and by the way, I can't uncheck them now because they are the only available option. So once I've checked them, since there's only one radio button in each group, that is the group that is selected. This is definitely not how I want my form to work. Now things are messed up. Now this is unrecoverable for me as a user to try to only check one of these because I inadvertently checked this one. Now they're both checked. They cannot be unchecked because they are the only option available in each of their groups. This is all higgledy-piggledy. I don't want this to happen. So the way that I'm going to need to fix this is I'm going to need to call this option 1. I'll just call it O1. And it's in group radio 1. This button here also needs to be in radio 1. However, I'm going to name it O2. And also the other thing that I want to do, if I can, I'm trying to get rid of, there we go. I'm going to put them next to each other. I can stack them on top of each other. By the way, these are a little tedious to try to format how you want them to show up on the page. Now, you do have the ability to show the radio buttons as a block so that it will show all of the radio buttons in this group in a block. So it'll do some visual stuff there, but I have to kind of figure out how I want them to appear. I have to manually format them if I want them to appear vertically as I have them stacked now, or whether I want to do them horizontally as I did briefly a second ago. And that's all up to you. In a radio button list, I can choose whether to display them horizontally or vertically. That's just a property of the radio button list. Here I have to do it manually. But now that they're both in radio 1 as a group, when I run it now, and it will take a few seconds, obviously, to run, what is going to happen is that I will now have 2 mutually exclusive radio buttons. That's the way radio buttons are supposed to work. Oh, I did have show them as block, so it actually shows them as blocks. But notice, even though it's not showing you the radio button because I said show as blocks, so it's giving me this cool little visual look. Note that they are both mutually exclusive. They both say text, though, so that's probably wrong. I'd want to change that. And if I wanted to go back and show them as just normal radio buttons, I can just turn off the radio buttons as blocks. Obviously, if I put some text in, maybe we'll call this one text 2, and we'll go up here and we'll call this one text 1. And now when I run it, because I've turned blocks off and I've also given it a new text to display, it is going to show up as normal radio buttons. Again, they'll be mutually exclusive because they're in the same radio 1 group. It will just take me a while to have the form up. There we go. And we got regular old radio buttons, and they work the way that we expect them to work. In addition, for each of the radio buttons, by default, the text is their value, but you can have a separate value that you place on a radio button. So this is great. It's just super tedious to do. However, if I want to combine 2 different radio buttons or groups into the same list so that I could have like multiple selections in the same list, and especially if I want to show them as blocks so that I just get the little square around, so they're kind of like mutually exclusive buttons at that point rather than the little round dotty radio buttons. I can do that. I can do some interesting visual things. I can also do some more complex lists. For the most part, you don't need to use radio buttons unless you're doing something super complicated like that. Radio buttons are very sophisticated, and they do give you a lot of flexibility. That's the one thing about the radio button list that it doesn't give you. It assumes that you want radio buttons. That's what you're going to get. Your choice is, do I want them stacked vertically or stacked horizontally? Other than that, you're just going to give it the items that you want, and it's going to show them to you as radio buttons. And everything in that list will be included in the list. I can't make a complex list of radio options that contain different groups so that I can, pick different items from what appears to be the same list. You could do something similar on a form. Obviously, it would be visually probably a little more complex, but radio buttons exist, and they are sort of the old way of doing things. but they still have some uses because for more sophisticated stuff, which we're not really doing, but for this example, but when you need to do some really sophisticated stuff, radio button controls give you a lot of flexibility. You just have to remember all of your radio buttons have to share a group to be mutually exclusive. So you just have to know a little bit more about how to configure these radio buttons in order to use them effectively. But in our case, we're just going to use the normal radio button group. And with that, there's one thing that I mentioned, and I never completed a second ago. So I want to go back and explain why we didn't do it whenever we were talking about the set focus, because I thought of something else I needed to do and lost my train of thought. But we're going to get back on the tracks here. I did not put a set focus custom task on the PTO end field. Now, I did for my time off field. So if I was to change that, it automatically goes and sets the focus here to my info. So that's great. So every time I make a change, it's going to go and set that focus, and that's great. And PTO start will do the same thing too. Notice I chose a date, and when I did, it took me directly to PTO end. I'm not going to do that on PTO end, and I think the reason is fairly obvious. I have no other fields to fill out. Now, technically, I might still want to do it. I know it's hard to see, but when I hit tab, it selected the submit button. So technically, I could put one in here. The only thing is there's no other control after it. So there's no real control for me to set the focus to, because by design, this is the last one on the form. But because it's the last one on the form, if I don't put a set focus on here, then I can in fact just hit tab and it will tab me directly to the submit button because PTO days is disabled. Therefore, it has no tab order. Calculation controls are basically system variable controls, so they have no tab order either. So this takes me directly to submit. So while I do want to have the set form or the set focus on request type and PTO start, I don't want it on PTO end. All right, so with this in mind, let me just go ahead and we'll be done with the form now. Now, we are going to have to come back to the form because we set some values on the form that we are going to need. For example, my requested HR option. I need to tell HR what it is that they're going to do. And based on the type of request that it is, I might skip my manager and my supervisor. We'll figure that out a little bit later. On complaint details, well, that I'm definitely going to want to skip my manager because I have a specific text box or checkbox where when the user fills it out and he's making a complaint, he says, I don't want you to include my manager. So I'm going to have to skip the manager because if the complaint happens to be about the manager, I want to be able to give employees a way to not have the manager who is being complained about as the gatekeeper for their complaint. So that's going to affect how the process works. And so the form and the process timeline interoperate. And I'm going to have process timeline conditions that are based on form fields. And obviously in the form itself, we've got some timeline condition stuff that we'll need to look at here a little bit later. I think I'll have to check that. I'm probably not going to get to it this week, but we'll need to be sure that the form and the timeline interoperate properly. So we're probably going to have to come back to the form, but for now, let's go take a look at the process timeline. Now, the process timeline that we have is the template timeline that was built into my application shell template. So it's already got some stuff pre-configured for me, which is good. and also bad because I'm not going to like this particular configuration and I'm going to have to change it. But here's my process timeline. It already has a custom task activity. It has a loop, a parent activity with two looping user activities inside it, and then it has a notification activity. It's about as generic as you can get, but there's a reason why I included these 4 different activity types for these 5 activities. First of all, on my form, I have a request number field. And when the form is first created, the value of that field is generated when submitted. That's going to change. I need to set an actual request number. I'm doing it in the process timeline as the very first process timeline activity. And the reason I'm doing that is because once you call a sequence number, then that sequence number is burned forever. And I don't want to burn a sequence number unless I have a running process timeline. We've discussed this before. I have 2 choices for setting the sequence number. In either case, I'm going to use a set form data action to do it. Technically, I don't need to do it this way, where I have a custom task activity and the custom task calls the set form data custom task to change the data on my form. Technically, this is an extra step I don't need because in a process timeline, I have a set form data action. I don't need to have an activity to run the set form data action. I could actually do it here. I could just say set activity as, approval loop. I could do it on the parent activity. I technically don't need the set request number activity at all. I could just set it on approval loop, and I could just set it as the task start for the approval loop to set the form data. I can add that action, and I can just say, okay, on my form field, I want to take my request number, which is right there. I could just take that request number and I could set it to whatever value that I wanted to set it. And that would work, but I don't like it. I don't like it because it's kind of hidden. It's hidden here in the set form data section. By default, it doesn't show up. So it's not immediately clear to me if I set it in set form data that I'm actually doing it on the task start for the approval loop activity. And of course, if I did it this way, I would just remove the set request number activity entirely. I don't need it. I'm not doing it this way because I don't like the fact that this is hidden up here. It's non-obvious to me where I'm setting that request number. Now, will I personally remember it? Yeah, probably. If I get hit by a bus and somebody comes and has to take over this process after me, will they know where it's set? Yeah, maybe eventually it'll occur to them, hey, I'm setting this field value somewhere. It's being set via a sequence number. It's not on the form. It's got to be here. I mean, through process of elimination, they'll, eventually find it. But the reason that I haven't done it is because I'd rather just do it explicitly. I'd rather make it part of the process and show that I'm actually setting a request number. So my very first activity is set request number. It is a set form data custom task. And I don't really need to do anything other than set the request number. And here I've just set it to a sequence number. So I have no idea what number it's going to be because I don't know how many sequence numbers I've burned. Usually we want to set a sequence number that is unique for each type. I've set it for sequence number simply so that I have one here. This is my template configuration. But because it is my template configuration and I know the sequence number is going to be some number that I can't know or predict, that's not going to be particularly helpful for me. So I know I am going to have to use a sequence number, but I am going to have to change it a little bit. So usually what I want to do is customize it. And there are various ways of doing this. I'm just going to use R. It's going to be, so this is 2024. So I want my sequence number to be R24-0001 when I submit my first one. So I'm going to type in R, and then I'm going to drop in a cur date and format is going to equal YY. So R cur date format equals YY. I don't need to have format capitalized. Doesn't matter, but I don't need it. Dash. So this will give me my R24 dash, and now I need to format my sequence number. So I am going to use sequence number, but I do need to use a sequence number group so that I can start a new sequence number with a new sequence number group. So I am going to call this sequence number group, and you have to put a colon in to specify the group, and I'm going to call it R, and then I'm going to nest current year again, R cur year. By the way, I should have gone with R cur year here, not cur date. I think in the end, it gives me the same value, but just to make it match. So this is going to be R24 dash, and the sequence number, I want it to be 4 digits, and I want it to be unique for every year. So every year the year turns over. So when we get to January 21st, I want the year to go from 2024. Well, the year will go from 2024 to 2025. I want my sequence number to reset. So I'm going to call this sequence, I know it doesn't exist anywhere on the system, R, and then I'm going to use current year, which will be, for this year, translated as a sequence number group of R2024. And then on January 1st, it'll be R2025. And so it'll restart my numbering at 1 on January 1st. That's great. That's exactly what I want. The only thing I want to be sure is that I have the right number of digits here. And so I'm just going to go with digits equals 4. And what that will give me with as a final product, since you've been watching me type it very tiny, let's make it big. What this will give me is a result of, for my very first one, R24-0001. And that will be a capital R, not a lowercase r. So that, well, I have caps lock locked. Keep locking caps lock, not hitting shift. So there we go. That's what I want my format to be. So this will tell me it is a request from 2024, and it was request number 1 of that year. And then next year, of course, it will start all over again. I did have one problem. Note, this is what I love about Visual Studio Code. This is why I use it so much. This bracket here is in red. You know why that's in red? It's because I'm missing a closing bracket over here, which is really easy to do whenever you nest a system variable in a system variable. So this is the sequence number system variable, and this is the current year system variable that's nested inside it. So having the right number of parentheses is a big help. So that's another reason to copy things over into Visual Studio Code, because it helps you get things right. So now, anytime a process timeline starts, the very first activity will do that set request number. And I've intentionally made it a specific timeline activity so that somebody opens up the timeline, they can just see, oh, that says set request number. You know what I bet that activity does? I bet it sets the request number, which is exactly what it does. The next thing I have in my template is an approval loop built in with two user activities, both of which have the dependencies already built in, activity one or approval one and approval two, inside this approval loop parent activity. In most cases, in most cases, I don't want to have a loop, right? In most cases, I want to submit a request. I want approver 1 through 5 to look at that request. I want them to approve it, and then it's approved, my action happens, and I'm done. I usually don't want to loop. Now, the looping tab on a parent activity, which is what my approval loop activity is great because it does allow me to repeat a loop until a condition is met. So it's going to keep doing the same thing over and over again until some specified condition is met. I've literally never used it this way. I care about two things. I'm in an approval process. One of three things, and it could be only one of two things, is going to happen in an approval process. The thing that may or may not happen, depending on how I want to structure my process, is I want to return this to the submitter for resubmission. In that case, I need to restart my loop. Not every approval loop will have that. Not every approval loop needs to restart. The remaining two things are going to be part of every approval loop. It's either going to be approved or it's going to be denied. So if it is approved, then I don't need to do anything. We're just going to go through all of my activities and then it's going to be over and ta-da, we're done. Or if I deny it, it's not going to happen anyway. I want to skip out. I don't want any of my subsequent approvers to look at it. I don't want them to be presented with a task. I'm done. My request has been denied. If it was denied at the second approver, I don't need the third approver to look at it because it's been denied. So I need to do one of two things in most cases. In every case, I need to figure out how to escape the approval loop. So if I got 10 approvals and the second approver denies it, I want to skip approvers 3 through 10. And the other thing that I often, but not always have to do is restart the loop because I need to send this back to the submitter for some sort of resubmission of their request. So in my template, I have both of these configured by default. Now, this is going to place some constraints on me because it's looking for specific activity results. And so if I'm going to have a resubmission, I am going to need to have some sort of explicit text on a button, on a result, that in this case includes the text resubmit. You could call it return for resubmittal. You could call it resubmit request. Whatever you wanted to call it, you could have a resubmission as long as one of your results of any child activity, any activity inside this loop, has the text resubmit anywhere. And then, of course, same thing, cancel. I've chosen deny as my result. And so again, that places a constraint on me to have a result that says deny in some form, and it does have to be D-E-N-Y, it does have to be deny somewhere as a result of the activities to cancel the remainder of the loop. So in general, I'm going to need to be able to do that. Now, in my case, in this particular activity, we are not going to cancel. I know I just said you always have a cancel. Well, like every other, blanket statement, that was wrong. You don't always have a cancel. I don't want to cancel these activities. Well, maybe I do. Maybe I want to give the user the ability to cancel the activity. That just occurred to me right off the top of my head. So maybe I do want to keep the cancel in there. I was going to have a resubmittal result, but I was just going to get rid of canceled. I don't want the approvers to be able to cancel the activity, but I do want the submitter to be able to cancel the activity. So you know what? We're going to keep both of these. So as it turns out, this is pretty useful. I just need to be sure that I have that. Now, if I'm going to have the user cancel it, it's not going to be denied by anyone in the process because, well, really, none of these. I guess you can deny a leave request. It's kind of unusual, but I suppose it's possible. So maybe I do need a deny for leave requests. So that's good. But even then, I don't think I'd deny it. I think I'd resubmit it. So I don't know that deny is what I want here because I don't want the original user to deny their own request. I just want them to cancel their request. So in this particular case, I think I do want to alter this condition a little bit. I want the child activity result to contain cancel, not deny. Because cancel is more appropriate if it's a request and the submitter wants to just, I don't want this request to go anymore. I want the submitter to be able to cancel that request. So, okay, we'll use cancel as my term there. We're still going to keep resubmit, but we're going to change deny to cancel. We're not going to have anybody deny anything, but there may be a cancellation. Even for a PTO, I'm not even going to allow in my process. I've decided, since it's mine and I can do anything I want, I've decided in my process what a manager will do rather than deny a request is request a resubmittal. And they'll say, sorry, that day we can't accommodate you, whatever it is. And we'll do a resubmittal for that. And it'll go back to the original user so that they can amend their request. So as it turns out, we needed both of these. We just needed to make a little tiny alteration to the condition under which this ran. And now that I've made that change, I'm just going to go ahead and hit update. Great. So now I have two activities. I'm actually going to need more than those activities. So I am going to need to add some. And they're all going to be part of the approval loop. So let's talk about what it is that we're going to do here. I've got these HR requests. All of them ultimately will go to HR. So I know I'm going to need an HR approval. I'm going to assume that there are two layers of management to get to HR. I'm going to need to have my immediate supervisor or manager review my request, send it off to her boss, the department manager, or the director, or whoever. So there's going to be a second pair of eyes that's going to look at this approval. And once both have agreed, they're going to send that off to HR. And of course, I also need an activity for the user to be able to perform whatever resubmission tasks that they have. So I've got my user doing the resubmission task, their manager's manager, and then it goes to HR for final disposition. In all of these cases, HR's got to do something. And so everything always goes to HR. So that's 4 activities. I've got 2 already configured here. So I need to have 2 more child activities in this process timeline. So we're going to go to our approval loop. We're going to create child activity. We're going to click on here again, approval loop, check it, and create child activity again. And that creates my 2 child activities. So since I've got these 2 child activities, I've already got these 2 that are already built, I'm just going to go ahead and drag and drop real quick and add my dependencies. Now, for some reason, I have this set to brown as the default color, which I don't particularly like. I want to go back to this nice orange color over here. So we'll have to configure this a bit later. But now I've got my 4 child activities, approval 1, approval 2, activity 2.3, activity 2.4, all of which will need to be renamed. So let's go through them step by step, figure out what it is that we've got to do for each of these activities or when these activities should run. Now, the first one is going to be simple. That's going to be my user resubmittal or requester resubmittal. So I'm going to I'm going to rechange. I'm going to change the name to precisely that, requester resubmittal. And for some reason, I kept, whoa, I also hit F12. Let's try this again. Request a resubmittal. It's obviously going to be a user activity. The color I set is gone. All right, well, fine. We'll just set it as orange and it'll be a nice orange color. I'm going to need instructions. Got to tell the user what I want them to do. If you remember in the form, we had, and you know what, it may be advisable at this point to actually have a copy of the form open in a second tab so that we can swap back and forth for training purposes and see what it is that we're talking about. So training, where's training? Oh, it's way down there in the T's apparently. And where's our form? Let's go back to our form design for this form. Okay, up here at the top, I've got the system variables. We talked about them last week. This instructions one is important. I've got to tell the user what it is I want them to do during their process timeline activity. Those instructions are provided here in the instructions property of the process timeline. So I'm going to want to tell them your request has been marked for resubmission. Please make the appropriate. I want to use appropriate rather than required. Please make the appropriate changes and resubmit. Okay, great. So now they have instructions that tell them what's going on. Your request has been marked for resubmission. Please make the appropriate changes and resubmit. I think that's pretty clear. Tells me what I'm going to do as a user when this task is assigned to me and I open up at the form right up there at the top in big red letters. It's going to give me these instructions. It's really important to have instructions for all of your user activities. Nothing else needs them really, but it's always great to have instructions. As a practical matter, everybody skips descriptions, but descriptions are kind of important. Again, we're not, as developers or designers or implementers, whatever you want to, citizen developers, whatever it is that you want to call yourself, anyone who builds process director applications, you really do need to build for what happens if I get hit by a bus. Somebody has to come along after me and manage this stuff, and I'm not going to be around to answer questions. So how do I help them? And the way you help them is the description field. We can comment everything in the description field that needs commenting. Now, sometimes instructions are enough. Sometimes instructions give us the idea of what's going on. However, not every activity has instructions, certainly not that are displayed to the end user. I mean, that's what instructions do, is they display stuff to the end user. Description displays stuff to you. And look, even if you don't get hit by a bus, you come back to this, 3 or 4 years later, you may not remember what this thing does. And so descriptions kind of help you too. Now, I'm not going to take up your time and add descriptions to everything because it would be tedious trying to watch me type, granted. So I'm not going to force you to do that. But I am saying the recommendation is that you always add descriptions onto your process timeline activities to describe what it is that activity is supposed to accomplish, so that people who come after you, and it may be you coming after you years later, can see exactly what it is that you were trying to do. We'll go to the participants. We don't really have to configure anything here because we actually want to return this to the person who submitted the request. That person will be the timeline initiator. So they are the participant that we want for this particular task. And we're going to have to give them some results. Now, I've got approve, resubmit, and deny. These results are just sort of baked into every activity that is part of the template. That's great, but I really only need the resubmit result because that's the only thing the user, well, actually, user's going to do two things because based on this being returned, the user may want to cancel their request. They don't need a deny result, but they do need a cancel result. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the approve result. They're the submitter. They don't need to approve their own result. They just need to resubmit it. So let's look at the resubmit activity. Okay, that looks good. Let's go to our options. Now I have moved everything. I got rid of one of the activities. So this is now button order 2 on the form. I am going to change that to button order 1. Not F1, 1. So this will be button order 1. Deny, I'm obviously going to want to make number 2. I want my button order to be set on all of my forms properly. I want to be sure that buttons show up in a particular order on my form. This is one of the fundamentals kind of UI design. Always show the same UI to your users over and over. I know some people think it's really great to have all kinds of cool UI things, and within reason it is, but you really do want all of your forms to work and operate in the same way. As I've said many times at BP Logix, our convention is the most positive result is first, and then the results are listed in order of most to least positive. So approvals are always first. Denials are always last. And as part of that, colors are important. Now, obviously, we don't depend on colors for accessibility reasons as the sole determinant of why something is the way it is. Green automatically means approval. That may be true. And if that is what you have decided is true, that you always want to use a green color for approval, then you need to do that everywhere. But it's not the only determinant. There does have to be text, in this case, the word resubmit, and we have to choose colors that are compliant with accessibility. So that means the appropriate color contrast between the text and the button's background color, all of that you have to respect. Now, because this was a resubmit, which I'm going to remove from everybody else, but I do want to keep for the user, my default template picks this as a very light yellow color. You can see it sort of right there. It's in this light yellow range with a black text. I don't really want that because this is not a warning or anything like that. I do want to kind of make it a resubmit is what we want to do. We want to make whatever changes and then resubmit and get back into the approval process. So this is kind of an approval, this resubmittal. So because I've decided that green is sort of my deal, I am going to set this as a green color. So we'll just go to green, and obviously I'm going to make it a darker green. So I think that is sufficiently dark for my button background color. And then obviously my text color, I'm going to go to the opposite. I'm going to make my text color white, and my button icon, I'm going to go ahead, and it was this dark color, black. Well, I mean, hard to get a darker color, but I want to change that to white so that my button shows up as with a white question button. I'm not sure that question is what I want, but we're gonna keep it there. So I have a darker green background and a white text. Normally, what I would do, I'm fairly certain that this meets our requirements at that color because it's a pretty dark green. But normally, what I would do is I would go to contrastchecker.com and I would check it out. So we're going to open up a new tab, and I'm just going to move it into a new window actually so that we can just see it as a separate window. There's a website called contrastchecker.com. And what this website allows me to do is to test for accessibility. So I had that background color for that green, which I just copied, right? And so I'm going to paste that green color in there. And obviously, I'm going to change my foreground color just to white because that's what I had it configured with on my button. And that tells me how compliant I am. Now, as it happens, I was right. That is technically compliant to the WCAG AA standard. So that is the standard that is generally, according to the Americans with Disabilities Act, and I believe also with Accessible Canada, and with also the Ontario and Alberta Provincial Accessibility Acts. I believe all of them specify compliance with the AA or double A level of compliance with the WCAG, the Web Consortium Accessibility Guidelines. And so this is a WCAG success. It's 2A compliant. If I really, really wanted to be compliant, I think I'd have to darken this green a little bit. Not much. It's pretty close, I think, already, but I think I'd have to drag this green down. There we go. That right there. We'll hit OK. So slightly darker green, but now it's just dark enough to pass AAA. I do like to meet the AAA standard where I can. Sometimes it's a little inconvenient, but it does allow me to go back here now that I know that this is AAA compliant, and I can paste that there and hit apply. And look, for me, I can hardly tell the difference. There's obviously there's a mathematical difference, and it meets a contrast ratio, in this case, of 7.73 to 1 between the foreground color, which is white, and the background color, which is this actually quite a pleasing green color, I think. And so that contrast ratio of 7.73 meets the WCAG AAA standard. So contrastchecker.com is really my go-to whenever I start building UI stuff and I start looking into colors and how I want to change things, because accessibility is important. And I always want to ensure that I have an accessible website built. I think I'm pretty good on this red color as well, with a white background. And I have just a barely visible, tiny, tiny pink. Now, this is one thing I don't like here. I can't actually see what my icon is. Here, I've set the icon as being slightly pink so that I can see it, but I can't really see it here unless I click on it. And we have made a change to the icon chooser. So if you do pick a white icon, we actually change the background to a gray. Honestly, I think it could be darker, but we do change it to a gray so that I can see what the icons are if I've chosen a white icon. So this works and it'll look fine on the button. Would I go with something a little bit different? Maybe, pick that green color, but then go way, 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 way over here onto the very, just a tinge of green for that icon and choose that. Boy, that's not very visible either. I can barely see it, and I'm sure you can't see it at all through Zoom, but I do have a slightly green icon there. So this is one little workaround that you can use if you don't like the sort of the tedium of figuring out exactly what the white icon is. You might want to go to a little grayer color. I think you might be able to see that a little easier. It's still super light. So you may want to just go with white and just live with the idea that you're going to have to click this and see what the icon is. And honestly, it might just be easier just to go with white, because at least on the icon chooser, I can see the icon a little better. Going with what I've done with these very light red colors or very light green colors, they're still kind of hard to see. This is really a matter of taste for you as to make your life easy as a designer. I guess you'll just look at this and see that the icon is white. And if you want to see what icon you've used, you're going to have to click on the icon chooser to see it. But okay, now I've got my buttons. These are good. This is going to be the simplest configuration for any of our user activities. We're just going to have, oh, wait, we can't call this deny. This is request or resubmittal. And we're not going to use deny anymore. We're going to call this one not cancel. We're going to call it cancel. So now we have a fully configured requester. No, not fully configured request or resubmittal. We need a needed when activity or needed when condition. We don't want this to run all the time. In fact, ideally, this will never run. This activity is only going to run whenever somebody sends in a resubmittal request that goes back to the user. So I've got to prevent this from running in all other conditions. So we're going to have to create a condition here on the needed when tab, because I only need this in really one specific instance. And that is if the parent activity has iterated. The parent activity has not iterated. I don't need this activity to run at all. So the very first time that this runs, I don't want to see this activity. So I'm going to have parent activity iterated equals yes. Now I could make this even more specific. So I could add an and here to say any child activity result contains resubmit. I don't think I need it in this case. This is one of the reasons why we test these things. I think this is going to be fine. I only need it if the parent activity has iterated. The parent activity should only iterate if somebody hits resubmit somewhere. So that should be the only time it happens. Now, something else occurs to me. Remember when I said conditions are hard? This is where you can really get things messed up with conditions. And I think I have messed things up. So let's go back and look at something. My needed when condition, I think, is fine. Everything else I don't need. Actually, there is one thing I'm going to do. Because once I start running this thing over and over and over again, it's going to be real irksome to me. I'm going to turn off notify participants when activity starts. I don't want that turned on. Now let's look at our approval loop activity again. Let's look at our looping tab. Any child activity result contains resubmit. I want to jump back to the top of the loop. This is important. Resubmit is an important word. It is a key word. That is the word we are looking for. And here's where I have messed up. I have a result called resubmit. I can't use that result because here's what's going to happen. I'm going to submit my request. My supervisor is going to say, hey, I need more information. He's going to hit the, request resubmittal button or whatever it is that I decide to call it to send the request back to me. I'm going to look at the request. I'm going to change it. I'm going to hit resubmit and it's going to restart the loop and send the task back to me. Because I have a resubmit result, it will automatically prompt a restart of the loop, which means if I keep this result name, I will have placed myself in an endless loop. So I can't use the word resubmit here for this result. So we're going to change this to resend request. So now when I get my activity or this activity assigned to me, I can resend and it will go to approval 2. It will not prompt a refresh of the entire approval loop. endlessly. So glad I caught that. So that's one less thing we have to worry about debugging. So at this point, we have a request or resubmittal. We haven't really done approval 2 or approval 3, and that's fine. We don't need to. We are just going to look at the activity results for activity 2. There is a resubmit result. And so here's what I expect to happen testing my process timeline so far. I'm going to submit it. I expect a request number to be set. It will then enter the approval loop activity. It will skip request or resubmittal. And then, because I have timeline initiator set as the person who is doing approval number 2, it will assign the approval number 2 activity to me. I will hit resubmit, and then it should just assign me request or resubmittal as it restarts the loop. This is what I expect to happen. I also expect to receive a lot of email notifications, which I don't want to. So again, don't ever do this, even though you see me do it all of the time in the real world. You want to keep all of these notifications checked because you do want your activity participants to receive the appropriate notification via email when their activities begin. I do not, because I'm going to end up giving myself, 50 different email notifications for something off of a webinar. You have no idea how irksome that is to clean up after a webinar. So let's see what happens. Let's take our form, and we can now, for the first time, submit and see what this thing is going to do. So we're just going to say, it doesn't matter what we pick. We're going to say complaint, blah, 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 blah. Oh, why is that showing up as, why is that showing up as gray? That's weird. All the other stuff we're just going to ignore for the moment, and we're going to hit submit. All right, I am in the approval 2 activity. There are no instructions, so fine. This is all working. My form is enabled, so I can put in comments. I don't have any process notifications because I haven't made any milestones yet, other than the one that we made on the form at the end of last week. It is 24-1, so that is wrong. I'm going to need to fix that. I've messed up the formatting on that system variable, but it's otherwise great. I expected to start with 1. It did. I do have a resubmit request here, or a resubmit result here. So I'm going to hit resubmit. What I expect would happen is it would restart. It would take me to requester resubmittal. Your request has been marked for resubmission. Please make the appropriate changes and resubmit. Not sure I like how close this is to my header. Think I might want to put in some extra space there just to make my form like a little more balanced. But other than that, as far as the process works, that is great. So I can look at my routing slip. Submitted. Resubmit was the request. It's now back to me as resubmitter. I'm going to hit resend request. And I am back into approval 2, exactly where I needed to be. And I have activity result here. I don't have a deny. So we're just going to hit approve. And well, I don't have a result there because that was brand new. I don't have a result here because that was brand new, but that will clear out my process. So far, so good. Testing worked. Everything is fine. Now, the one question that someone is going to be thinking at this point is, okay, I've now burned that sequence number. We looked at the form. We saw it was 001. Yeah, that's true. We did. On the other hand, technically, you're supposed to be doing this on a development server. So it doesn't matter if you burn the sequence numbers on the development server. What matters is that it's not burned on your production server. So we're going to burn a lot of sequence numbers because we're going to do a lot of testing, but that's okay. That's just part of life on the development side. Once we export this over into our production server, it will actually restart with with 1 on our production server, and all of our numbers will be real at that point. So you shouldn't be doing this on a production server anyway, where burning sequence numbers would bother you. You're supposed to be doing this on a development server. And so, speaking of sequence numbers, I've clearly done something wrong here. Sequence number per year. Yeah, I did do something wrong here. Yeah, that's not how I want this to work. I needed the current year system variable right there because I do want all 4-year, but I do want a 4-digit sequence number. So I still want R 2024 as my group number, but now the digits has been moved to where it belongs under the sequence number. So that's why it came out as 1 instead of 0001. And we'll look at that the next time we submit an activity. Okay, so we've configured that. Let's update. Actually, I did notice something whenever the form was running on the results tab on my resend request. For whatever reason, I did not save properly when I changed those colors, or rather, I only changed the color for the cancel result, not for this one. So I'm going to go ahead and reset that one to a white icon color, and we will update there. And now we can go on to our second activity. What time is it? It's 11:35. All right, so I've got 3 results here. Well, let's actually go back here to the activity tab. Let's go through this step by step. The activity name is approval 2. And I want to call this, actually, I'm not even going to call it manager approval. No, I used manager on the form, didn't I? I had skip manager or exclude manager. Yeah, I did. So fine. We're going to have this number 1 here as manager approval. So we'll have manager approval, department approval, and then HR action. Those will be our activities that we're doing. But right now, manager approval. Okay, great. I'm, of course, going to reset my color here to the orange. Ooh, yep, I picked it. The orange color I used on my previous one. Happy with that. I am going to need instructions. I got to tell the user, of course, what I want them to do. I don't want to get too verbose with this for the instructions. So I'm just going to please review this request for I could do some fancy stuff here. I could throw in the form submit user or other system variable here if I want to. I think we'll do that. Please review this request forms user, then approve, deny, or return for changes. Or request changes. Let's just put it that way. So this will tell me who it's coming from. Should form submit user, I believe, is the correct version of that system variable. And it'll tell the user what to do. So I always need to put those instructions on there. Trying to reach the end here so I can put a period on that sentence. Oh, and by the way, while we're talking about the instructions, let me go back up here to my form. I actually think that the way the form shows up, I actually do want to have a blank line there. We'll see how that looks later on whenever we run the form, but I'm just going to go ahead and save. It is kind of convenient to have the form open at the same time, isn't it? Okay, fine. So participants. In the real world, I would set this to a participant. So as tedious as it's going to be to go through and test it, less tedious now that I can impersonate users directly from the new UI. Um, Normally, we would set this either via group or via a business variable. I think there's no way that I can do this that doesn't sort of violate our intent here. Um, so, I am going to keep it timeline initiator for ease of use. I'm going to keep it at timeline initiator. That way, everything goes to me and we can just sort of quickly go through and demo stuff without me having to constantly impersonate somebody else and then be myself again and then impersonate somebody else. We're just going to keep it to me. As I said, normally you would assign a task to either a group or to a business value, depending on your needs. You rarely ever assign something to a specific user. The reason that you would assign it to a group is, well, because it would be a pain otherwise to assign tasks and to have them work whenever a user leaves the organization. Because then if you assign to a user, so normally what I would do in a situation like this is I would just assign it to Diana, right? Or Barb, one of the two. And, everything would be hunky dory. It would assign it to them. I would impersonate them. And that's fine. But as people move around in the organization, assigning by users is going to make your life a lot harder. You're going to have to go to every single timeline activity that shows Diana as a user and check to see whether she's still a valid user. I mean, it may be that Diana has left the organization and she's being replaced across the board. In that case, it's simple. We just go into user admin, we go to Diana's account. There's a little section at the bottom of the page that says replace this user with somebody else. You replace her and she just automatically gets replaced everywhere in Process Director. Easy peasy, not a problem. Problem arises is when Diana moves to a different job. She may be doing some of what she used to do, but not all of it. And you have to go in on a case-by-case basis and figure out what gets assigned to Diana and change the configuration to some other user who will also get a new job or leave or get transferred in the organization. And you're going to have to fix that. That's always a pain to have to do. Now, as I said, I'm going to go ahead and keep this set to timeline initiator for training purposes because I think that's best. Let me update that right there. However, it's best if you set it to groups, because if you have it set to a group, right, all you have to do is go into user administration, go to groups, find the group admin, since I know that I'm in there, and just change the group assignments. For example, Chris Johnson's no longer with us. He went to work for a customer. So he no longer needs to be in the admin group here. So I can go ahead and simply move him out of it. And this is the only place that I have to make that change. Once I've made it here, then whenever I make any assignment and I assign via group and I assign it to admin, then, well, I should have picked the group, huh? Admin. And I assign it to admin, fine. I don't ever have to come into my process timelines and change anything. I can just change them inside my groups, and that works fine. Now, look, if you have an organization with thousands of people using Process Director and potentially, hundreds of people as assignees, that's a lot of groups to create. So at least initially, that's a bit of a pain, but it is a lot easier to manage if you have people assigned via groups. Alternatively, you can assign people via a business rule. And so I don't know if I want to leave here. Let me update whatever it is that I do. Let me update first and then go to business rules, because in my business rules folder, I actually have a business rule here called VP operations, and it returns Eric. It always returns Eric. It's the only thing it returns. It returns a list of users. The list consists of a user, Eric Wintemute, And that is the user this business rule always returns. So I can always assign something to VP of operations, and it always returns Eric Wintemute. Usually you wouldn't use it this way. Usually you would have a VP operations group, and you would assign it to that group. And then when that changed, you would change the group. But the thing is, when you assign a group, that means you have to have user admin permissions at least to go into groups to change the group memberships. So somebody has to be a system admin to get in there and make that change, or they at least have to be a user admin to go in and make the change. You may not want to give that level of admin permission to people, in which case the fallback is being able to put a business rule in the content list. The other great use for a business rule, of course, is if I do have a condition and I return a different user based on some condition. So in some cases, it might be Eric. In some cases, it might be Diana, others Barb. And so I'm going to return a user. And in this case, if it's going to be multiple users, I would just pick first user matching condition. And then it can just go through a list of users, find the first user that matches whatever condition you want to create, and returns them. So business values or groups is the way that I would do it. And having said that, I've now convinced myself to go into user administration, go to groups, and I have a webinar group, and it has too many people assigned to it. But I'm going to go ahead and remove Barb and remove Diana, and I'm going to hit close. And this is going to be everything that is assigned to this group now gets assigned to just me. I'm the only member of this group. But on my process timeline now, what that means is that for my manager approval activity, I am going to assign that to the webinar group, which is essentially me, or at least it's me right now. And at some point, if I want to make that someone else, I will assign that to someone else. I didn't mean to close that. I just meant to get out of that, out of the participants tab. Now I have to go to the results tab. I've got activity results here. I thought that was a deny, apparently not. So I do have approve, and that is item 1, and that looks fine. And I have resubmit. And by the way, we're not going to go through all of these colors again. I've explained colors once. That's enough. And we're going to have this final activity result here, which needs to be filled out. And this will be our deny result, which will take us out of our loop. And we're not going to be able to test that yet. We'll have to test that a little bit later. Everything else was configured. I must just not have put deny in my results here. Okay, I have approve, resubmit, and deny. I'm not sure that these are the only activities I need, but it is 11:47. So before I get into that, multiple activities, which is going to take longer than 10 minutes to explain and to demonstrate, we're just going to go ahead and think we're going to have some different activities here. We're going to have to come back and fiddle with this, but we're going to have to come back and fiddle with it next week. I'm going to do, again, offline, so you don't see me do the same reconfiguration over and over and over. I'm going to do all of the other activities sort of offline in between this week and next week so that we don't have to spend time redoing the same thing over and over. I can just explain what I've done, but I do need to keep one free so that I can add some new results. This is not good for every request. I'm going to need to add some different results for different request types. And I'm going to have to show and hide results based on the type of request that I've received. So I've got to be able to handle all of that for the different types of requests and how they're going to work. So next week when we come back, that's probably where we're going to have to start off with these results. For now, we need to finish configuring this, and we need to go to the needed when tab. I do need a needed when condition here. So on my needed when condition, I don't want my manager sometimes to see this request. In fact, I explicitly, if we go back and look at the form, let me move this over so that I can click on it real quick once I cover it up with this. So on this form, if we go down here in my complaint details, talked about this briefly, I've got this exclude manager field that we talked about previously. I don't want my manager to see this complaint. So I want to skip my manager in that case. I want this to go straight to my department director because the manager is the source of the problem. I want to skip them. So I've got to set a needed when condition for this manager approval. So I'm going to add a condition here, and I've got a couple of ways that I can do this. And this may not be the only time that I don't want my manager to see it. We'll take a more in-depth look maybe a little bit later, but I do know if I have checked exclude manager, I really, really don't want my manager to see this complaint. I want this complaint skipped over and sent directly to my manager's manager because, well, my manager may be the source of the problem. So I'm going to add that there so that my manager will not see this if I have it configured. So that will conclude here. I do want to test real quick. So I'm going to go to activity 2.3 and I'm going to go with department head approval. And I'm just going to change it to department head approval. And actually, while I'm here, I might as well change my color. Oh, by the way, those colors, I know that none of you have them. This is a color palette that I've created, and I've created it specifically for accessibility purposes. Everything meets two-way accessibility. If this requires a change to your custom VARS file, if you want this, give me an email and I will send it off to you. If you want me to add it to your custom VARS file because you don't have direct access to your custom VARS file, you'll have to submit a technical support request, and I'll go ahead and take a look at it. But I've created these colors for accessibility, and of course, obviously, I have the BP Logix colors as well. That's just there for branding purposes. But if you want these, happy to give those to you. All right, so the reason that we're doing this now, it is 11:52, so we're good for time. Here's what I want to do. Now I want to test skipping the manager approval. So what I need to do is I need to submit a complaint request. I need to click the exclude manager checkbox and see that when I submit that form, it's going to go straight to department head approval. So let's update, or actually I should have just hit OK, save and close my item. I've got the form open here, so you know what? I can just go ahead and submit it right from here. So our form will pop up in a minute or so. Sure it will. It'll just pop right up there. There we go. Okay, great. We have to do a complaint and we want to exclude our manager, and then we want to submit our complaint. And what I would expect, of course, is for the manager to be, oh, it did go to manager approval. This worked. Please review this request for Dale Franks. Approve, deny, request changes, but I don't want my manager to see this. So we're going to hit deny there and complete. So this did not work the way that I wanted it to work. Complete. This is why testing along the way is so important. So manager approval, needed when? Oh, it's not needed when exclude manager is checked. It's needed when it's not checked. I've done the exact opposite of what I wanted to do. I said, hey, run this if I say exclude manager. So I click exclude manager and process director says, oh, you really, really want the manager to see this, don't you? No, I do not. So let's update our process timeline after having changed that condition. And let's do a quick restart of the process. Well, at least we know that my system variable worked just fine in the instructions for manager approval. So at least we got that bit of testing out of the way. All right, back to our form. Complaint, exclude manager, submit. And this time we did the exact opposite. We went directly to department head approval. I don't even know why I scrolled all the way down there. I don't have to. It's up here in big red letters. Also, I kind of like the look here of my form. That's kind of cool, but we're going to do something even better, I think. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get rid of that space that I put in previously. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and add it there after our embedded section control. So I actually only want this extra space to show up after the embedded section control. So I'm going to go ahead and save my form definition here. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to reset. And it basically should look exactly the way that we want it to look. Once it saves and I refresh it, we shouldn't see much of a difference on this form. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and kill this form completely. Let me finish my process here. We'll just run this de novo. Okay. Anytime you want to save. We have 4 minutes left and you're wasting it. Okay, great. So here you can see not much change. It looks pretty much exactly the way it is. Has this nice balance up here at the top, which is what I was looking for, giving me some white space between the form title. So that looks good. A new form is going to look a little bit different though, because that section is going to be hidden. So my top form controls are going to be tighter up to the top of the header. So we'll resubmit this and take a look at what a new form instance looks like. Then I'll submit it and we'll see what, we'll see how it sort of changes the way the form looks. So there we go. Great. I like the spacing that I have here. Now we're just doing design stuff, by the way. But we're doing design stuff, trying to figure out how we want to implement this hidden section up here. Then I'm going to hit submit. Yeah, that is exactly what I want. That is a nice looking form up there at the top. I like the spacing of it. There's not too much, but it gives me some nice visual distinction. I am a happy camper. Also, it knows who I am. It knows who submitted the form. It sends that to me via system variable as the manager, so I can see everything that I'm supposed to see on this particular form. And I can go ahead and just deny it, get us out of that. Well, it's not getting us out, but I'll go ahead and finish all my activities and we'll be done. We have a couple of more things obviously to fix on the process timeline to get it set up. So we'll come back next week to department head approval and we'll start getting that stuff configured. Once we have our process timeline configured, we can then move on to our email template and get that configured as well. I am trying to stop sharing in Zoom and it's not responding. So I'm not sure what's going on and why Zoom meetings isn't responding and why it's not sharing. I don't even know if I'm broadcasting it now. So look, have a great week. Our time is up anyway. It's 2 minutes to 12. If I am still broadcasting, great. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week. If I am not broadcasting, then you will never get this message. In any case, have a great week. So long.